prisons for crimes he never committed.
Okay.
We're
Go ahead.
interviewing Brother Kelvin Malik Morris, a man who has spent over 30 years in prisons for crimes he never committed.
Okay.
We're interviewing Brother Kelvin Malik Morris, a man who has spent over 30 years in prisons for crimes he never committed. Most of his time was spent on death row. Just to be clear, Mr. Muhammad, good morning, sir. Good afternoon.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, sir. How many years did you serve in prison for a murder you didn't commit?
I did 33 years straight.
And what prisons were you incarcerated in?
Huntington, SCI Huntington, and SCI Green, Supermax.
Did you have any access to any educational opportunities?
A little bit. We could request law library books twice a week.
And out of all the years that you spent in prison, sir, how many of those years were spent on death row?
Probably just coming home, I did 25 years in South Confinement Street without any human contact.
So that's death row?
Yes, sir.
Regardless of what others thought or think about your innocence or guilt, Mr. Muhammad, you have always known and maintained your innocence. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
What gave you hope and the motivation, brother, to move through all those years knowing you were innocent?
Well, that's one of the reasons why, because I knew I was innocent and I saw the foul play that they did, and they used purged testimony and stuff, and they suppressed documents that was in my favor, and I always challenged my lawyer's ineffectiveness, but I could never get a fair hand in court for the last 25 years.
Sir, it's my understanding that they signed a death certificate or a death warrant twice?
Yes, my death warrant was signed twice before.
I never saw a death warrant. What exactly does it say, or what would it say?
It's a copy of it. Death warrant is, when they sign your death warrant, it's sealed with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. They bring it to your cell with an official and let you know that the government has signed your warrant. And then they read off what you're convicted of and how your case was turned down in the state Supreme Court. And they give you a date when they plan on carrying out the execution. And they come and they take you from one isolated area where you with all the guys on death row, put you in another isolated area where you by yourself totally.
Like, almost like in preparation for death.
Right.
Who stopped the execution from being carried out?
When they signed my death warrant in May. The execution rate probably would be in June. Within 30 days, they give your lawyer time to file a petition and stuff. And I received stage from the court twice because I had never had a writ of habeas corpus in federal court.
So needless to say, you were fighting this, you were pushing this issue of your innocence.
Yes, sir.
All to the last minute.
Right, because several times they offered me a life sentence prior to my trial, and after I was litigating, after I was convicted and filed motions in the court to try to get me suppress my claims, they offered me life sentence and several times if I waive my trial right issues, and I told them no, I would never do that.
So, had you had less knowledge of the law, less motivation, less mental fortitude, less of a will to live and to be free, you think they would have killed you?
Oh, yes, sir. Because I had 7 lawyers before I got out, and each one of them I was challenged ineffectiveness to the council. And several of them, when they come on your case, they never even interview you, come visit you, or anybody in your family. They just read the notes and think that they know your case.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to learn the law. People helped me, and I helped others. And I just, never gave up.
Tell me, how does it feel knowing you did not commit this crime, but yet you have been sentenced to die for that crime? What kind of feeling is that, brother?
Well, it's a feeling of distress, brother, but you know, nobody knows my case better than me, and I know, you know what I mean, that they never really had an airtight case. You know what I mean? Well, it's not up to me to prove my innocence. It was up to them to prove that I was guilty. But they suppressed the evidence to help show that I was innocent. Because I chose to fight, you know what I mean? They did a lot of things that I didn't know that they would do to get a conviction. You know, they manipulated the jury and the judge, and you know, presented evidence that had nothing to do with the crime itself, just to make the jury hate me.
Let me just go off my record for a minute. I just want to ask this question. Is that a common practice? You think that happens a lot with men on death row or men who have been convicted of murder or sentenced to die?
What?
That they jockey with the documents and play with the...
Yes, well, they suppress evidence because the Commonwealth, they want to get a conviction.
Right.
And that by all means, you know what I mean, they want to get a conviction, and they don't play by the rules. And that's why Jay Smith walked off of death row after killing. He was down for killing 3 people. I don't know if he did it or not. But because they suppressed evidence that was in his favor that would have helped exonerate him, the court took a strong stand and said it was miscarriage of justice and let him go. Even though he could have been guilty. You know what I mean? But they would stop and they had suppressed evidence that helped prove that he was innocent.
How old were you when you first went to prison?
20.
How do you spend your time being locked up in a cell 24 hours a day?
Well, it was hard. I spent my time educating myself, reading and studying the teachers of Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Minister Farrakhan. And like I said, I studied the law books and stuff like that, and read other cases and other literature and stuff. You know.
Oftentimes, sir, you hear convicted men saying, I didn't commit the crime, I'm innocent, it wasn't my fault, the defense counsel, and it was a widespread conspiracy to convict me, especially on the part of law enforcement and the district attorney's office. My question is, in such a matter, how do we determine who is really guilty and who is innocent if the district attorney's office and law enforcement is using all their resources to look effective by using an innocent person to just clean the books? How do we make a determination if you really are guilty?
Well, when a defendant is accused of a crime, he doesn't have to prove his innocence or guilt. It's up to the government to prove that he's guilty. But by them playing foul and suppressing evidence that could exonerate him and stuff, everybody calls him the walker, and he really might have been guilty. You know, but when you're charged with a crime, you don't have to prove your innocence. The burden is on the state to prove that you're guilty.
Okay. I understand you are out of prison as a result of a delay of justice, that you have proven that you never committed the crime, and that you personally had to do your own legal work to finally get some sense of justice. Do you have any kind of background in law, or would you say that you could actually do law work?
Well, yes, I know the law work I've learned. I learned from, you know, studying myself and other people pointing out things to me. And you become more effective because lawyers don't have the time, energy, desire to study, you know what I mean, your case like you have. And they working on 5, 10, 15, 20 other cases. So your case, you're just another number to them until your case come up. So it's up to you to be able to point them issues out to them. That's where a lot of problems come in because they don't want to listen to a layman person because they are lawyers and stuff like that. But they don't do an effective job.
So because you didn't go to law school, they won't listen to you.
Right, you find it hard for them to listen to you, exactly.
And you may have all the right points.
Yes, exactly. And they might just don't want to do the work. Because they feel like you just said, well, you're innocent, you're guilty. Anyway, I'm forced to take this case because I'm court appointed. So I'm not going to go out my way to help you.
In your opinion, and I'm just asking your opinion, this is off the record, off my record, my notes. You think there are many more men on death row who could be innocent?
It could be. It could be. It happened to me. It happened to other people. Just recently this year, there's a news article in the paper where a man in Louisiana still spent 3 decades on death row, and they found out that he was innocent. It was in Inquirer, March the 13th, 2014.
I think that may be the guy that just passed away recently. He was supposed to have cancer.
May have. I haven't heard about that.
Okay. Do you believe you suffer any physical or, no, why not scratch that? Do you believe you suffered any psychological distress due to your extended stay in prison?
Yes, very much so. You know, me trusting people, me being around people, me having the freedom to be able to being locked down so long and told what to do, and now having the freedom to go and come as you please. It take a while to adjust to that.
So that don't make you antisocial. You just used to being by yourself for such a long period of time. Would you say that?
Yes. You know, so.
Are you currently on any kind of medication?
No.
Are you serving, after serving all the time in prison on death row, and then coming right out to the street, because they sent you right on. You didn't have to go no halfway house or nothing. Is that correct? Was that a difficult transition?
Yes, it was. You know, after being locked away all those years, you know, technology changed, everything changed, people changed. You know, I was away 3 decades. You know, I come home looking for the same people that I left behind in the neighborhood and on the street. You know, they no longer there. It took me a while to adjust to that. You know, and to the fact that I lost all those years of my life. You know.
Did you coming out? Did you have any family support?
Yes, very much so.
So you basically are starting to build your life from nothing.
Exactly.
What is that like?
It's rough. It's hard. But, you know, with the support of my family, you know, and it makes it a lot more easier. But it's still difficult because you're like a stranger to them, in a sense.
Yeah.
And they have to get used to you and being around you and you being involved in affairs and stuff. So it's rough, but it would be a lot difficult more because people that know what you've been through, they could be a little bit more patient than somebody that don't know, you know what I mean?
Based on your response, are you saying that people are a little impatient where you're concerned?
Yes, a lot of people are a lot impatient because they don't have no understanding. Some people might not do things intentionally, but they just don't know, you know. They don't know. You can't understand, even though they might have visited, they still don't understand stuff because they didn't go through that.
They go through, right.
You know.
Are you currently on parole or probation?
Probation.
Probation. Are you currently employed?
No.
Have you considered writing a book or anything?
Yes, well, hopefully, taken from this interviews or producing something to see my story be interesting.
What is your objective for the future? What do you think you want to do in the future?
Well, I would like to mentor children and to work with people, you know, that have been in trouble before. So if I get them proper advisement.
Yeah, that basically make you a professional in that area.
Yes, sir.
And what they say, if you spend more than 10,000 hours at any one thing, you are a professional at that thing. And you have more than 10,000 hours.
Yes, sir, no doubt.
What would you like to pursue now that you are out to support yourself? What do you like to pursue now? I mean, something that you really chasing after?
Well, we being a follower of the Nation of Islam,
yes,
and our mission is to, you know, to deliver 17 million dead to the Lamb of God. So, you know, so my experience and example, you know, I hope to be able to turn people away from you know, crime and things that would get them in trouble. You know, I explain it to them that it's not the way to go.
So when you say deliver the 17 million dead to the Lamb of God, you're actually saying you're going to help educate them, inform them, direct them in the right path.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And to the knowledge of themselves.
The knowledge of self and kind.
No doubt.
Yes, sir. What would you like to pursue? Oh, pardon me, scratch. Is the legal field something you would like to, are you interested in the legal field?
Well, to be honest with you, I would like to be able to get a job in that field, but, you know, that's not my main objective, but, you know, it takes a lot of studying to research to be able to help somebody who's in trouble, you know, because you have to spend time in looking into the case. If you don't do that, then, you know, you could be the most powerful, knowledgeable lawyer in the world, but you could be incompetent.
I guess basically what I'm asking is that you being if you were to be a paralegal, I'm thinking now of your other responses to my other questions. There's so many things that you have to do for yourself personally.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You really couldn't commit to that kind of time right now until you get some things taken care of.
Right.
Would that be fair?
Yes, sir.
Have you been involved in any kind of public speaking engagements?
Yes, I went there on Temple University School and publicly spoke about what it's like being on death row and mitigating and mitigating aggravating circumstances on penalty of what they use during the end of the conviction that give you the death penalty. They try to present aggravated circumstances to show the jury why you should be sentenced to death, and the mitigating is to try to get the jury to compromise to spare your life. So I explained that to me and my lawyer, professor, invited me down there. And I went on a couple of speaking engagements with Pam Africa and my husband.
Yeah, I've sat in some classes and I found that a lot of people do not understand what you just explained. Although to some people it seems like a basic knowledge or a common knowledge, it's not that common.
Right.
People really don't understand that what mitigation is and mitigating circumstances is.
Well, mitigating circumstances is whether you get convicted by a jury. The lawyer tries to present mitigating evidence. That means he tries to ask the jury not to give you the death penalty because of abuse of childhood, because of mental illness, because of mental retardation, things in that nature to mitigate the crime that you committed, to show them that you're not a normal person than the average person. So, and then aggravating circumstances is when the Commonwealth try to present evidence to show that you should deserve the death penalty, like a violent background. You know, like you might have had an aggravated assault before, simple assault, or you might have got in trouble while you was in prison, stuff like that. That's what their job is to. So when the jury come out, they weigh the aggravating and mitigating circumstance, and then they make the determination. But during the time of my trial, that the jury had to be unanimous in mitigating evidence to be able to determine that that was a mitigating evidence. And since then they changed the law. Only one jury can agree on mitigating evidence. They can stop them from giving you the death penalty. When during my trial, it was easier for them to give you the death penalty. So what they did to equal that is when they started saying that when they made it where the jury could, one juror could agree on the mitigating evidence to stop from giving you the death penalty. What they did is they used to, when they found you an error during your penalty trial, they used to give you an automatic life sentence. But now what they did is they started the resentencing hearing. If your conviction is overturned at the death penalty stage, you go back for a resentencing. And what they have now is what they call a victim impact, as well as where the DA could put on evidence from the victim family to show why you should be given the death penalty from the impact that it affected them of. But during the time of my trial, they couldn't do that. So anything that the Supreme Court did to open to feel on the mitigate evidence more, the Commonwealth passed more laws to build more aggravated circumstances.
So they always counter with something.
Right, exactly.
So, now let me say this, man. You don't need a defense counsel, but I just want to say something about your character. Knowing you for as long as I've known you, serving 28 years myself in prison, to watch you come home after all those years, man, and be upright and still try to do the right thing, not fall victim to a whole lot of stuff that a lot of other people would have fell victim to or could have fell victim to. You decided to take the high road. I know you out here struggling trying to get jobs, and I know, you know what I mean, you work this and you do that, little places here and there, nothing steady, but you're not locked up. You ain't committing no crimes. You haven't lost your mind yet. But I know it's hard, man. I know you see a lot of crazy stuff out here that wasn't going on when we were home, when we were younger, when we were 20 years old out here in the streets. And it's hard to navigate through all that stuff, trying to build your life and looking at all this madness around you and trying to keep up with this and keep up with that. I see you got a new phone, you know what I mean, trying to figure that thing out. You know what I'm saying? So it's not, your struggle is not over, is my point. And that I'm hoping and praying to God that somebody sees this and says, well, because there's a lot more that you have to say. There's a lot more that you can tell. And I hope somebody sees this and understand that you have a good story, a story that's worth listening to, and that hopefully can save a lot of people's lives, both in prison and outside of prison.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir, for your time.
Thank you, sir. How'd they go in?
I'm ready to find out.
Oh, my God.
Okay. This is the last section or test station that we'll be going today. Alright. We have 4 test tubes, as you see. Tape first. Alright.
We're interviewing Brother Kelvin Malik Muhammad Morris, a man who has spent over 30 years in prisons for crimes he never committed. Most of his time was spent on death row. Just to be clear, Mr. Muhammad, good morning, sir. Good afternoon.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, sir. How many years did you serve in prisons for a murder you didn't commit?
I did 33 years straight.
And what prisons were you incarcerated in?
Huntington, SCI Huntington, and SCI Green, Supermax.
Did you have any access to any educational opportunities?
A little bit. We could request law library books twice a week.
And out of all the years that you spent in prison, sir, how many of those years were spent on death row?
Probably just coming home, I did 25 years in I'll take confinement straight without any human contact.
So that's death row?
Yes, sir.
Regardless of what others thought or think about your innocence or guilt, Mr. Muhammad, you have always known and maintained your innocence. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
What gave you hope and the motivation, brother, to move through all those years knowing you were innocent?
That's one of the reasons why, because I knew I was innocent and I saw the foul play that they did, and they used purged testimony and stuff, and they suppressed documents that was in my favor, and I always challenged my lawyer's ineffectiveness, but I could never get a fair hearing in court for the last 25 years.
Sir, it's my understanding that they signed a death certificate or a death warrant twice?
Yes, my death warrant was signed twice before.
I never saw a death warrant. What exactly does it say, or what would it say?
It's a copy of it. Death warrant is, when they sign your death warrant, it's sealed with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, they bring it to your cell with a official and let you know that the governor has signed your warrant, and then they read off what you convicted of and how your case was turned down in the state Supreme Court, and they give you a date when they plan on carrying out the execution, and they come and they take you from one isolated area where you with all the guys on death row, put you in another isolated area where you by yourself totally.
Like almost like in preparation for death.
Right.
Who stopped the execution from being carried out?
Well, when they signed my death warrant in May. The execution trade probably will be in June within 30 days. They give your lawyer time to file a petition and stuff. And I received stage from the court twice because I had never had a writ of habeas corpus in federal court.
So needless to say, you were fighting this, you were pushing this issue of your innocence.
Yes, sir.
All the way to the last minute.
Right, because several times they offered me a life sentence prior to my trial, and after I was litigating, after I was convicted and filed motions in the court to try to get me suppress my claims, they offered me life sentences several times if I waive my trial right issues, and I told them no, I'll never do that.
So, had you had less knowledge of the law, less motivation, less mental fortitude, less of a will to live and to be free, you think they would have killed you?
Oh, yes, sir. Because I had 7 lawyers before I got out, and each one of them I was challenged ineffective to the council. And several of them, when they come on your case, they never even interview you, come visit you, or anybody in your family. They just read the notes and think that they know your case.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to learn the law. People helped me, and I helped others. And I just, never gave up.
Tell me, how does it feel knowing you did not commit this crime, but yet you have been sentenced to die for that crime? What kind of feeling is that, brother?
Well, it's a feeling of distress, brother, but, nobody knows my case better than me, and I know, that they never really had an airtight case. You know what I mean? It was not up to me to prove my innocence. It was up to them to prove that I was guilty, but they suppressed the evidence to help show that I was innocent. Because I chose to fight, you know what I mean?